Hey, it's Grant. Before the show starts today, I want to tell you about Hangover Destroyer. Hangover Destroyer is the only all-natural product medically proven to prevent a hangover. If you like to drink at night and be able to think in the morning, one shot of Hangover Destroyer lets you have all the fun and no side effects. Go to Hangover Destroyer's website, that's hdestroyer.com, write Happy Hour in the coupon code, and get 30% off your order of Hangover Destroyer and seize the dawn. It's Happy Hour again from Uptown New Orleans. Hello, I'm Grant Morris. Happy Hour is part of the family of shows on the podcast network. It's neworleans.com, brought to us today by Petite Pet Care. If you're going out of town or you have a schedule that keeps you away from home, the folks at Petite Pet Care understand that some pets don't mind being boarded, but others prefer the comfort of their own home. And if that's your pet, Petite Pet Care will give them loving care when you're not there. You can find them at petitepetcare.com. When you walk into a bar in New Orleans and you pull up a bar stool, you never know who's going to be sitting on either side of you. What you do know is no matter what they look like, what they're wearing, whether they just got out of a limo or just got out of jail, they're going to be happy to talk to you. Because that's New Orleans, and this is Happy Hour, a cocktail-fueled 60 minutes of random conversation with folks who have nothing in common. Other than we're all New Orleanians in a bar. In this case, we're on Wayfair on Ferret Street. Wayfair, in case you're interested, is a restaurant and a bar serving handcrafted food and spirits, where Chef Kevin White puts fine dining into a sandwich. And if you're thinking that's just some sort of bullshit slogan, it's not. Chef Kevin White was a chef with Mario Batali in New York before he moved here to New Orleans to open this restaurant. And he puts all his fine dining experience into making sandwiches. And you might think, how good could a sandwich fucking well be, really? Let's face it. But wait till you try these sandwiches here at Wayfair and you'll see what I'm talking about. They have an enormous happy hour here from 4 to 7 every day. That ends in a Y. And they serve awesome cocktails and make fabulous food. So come and check it out. Here, Wayfair is on Ferret Street. Happy Hour this week features these very special people. Jackie Samel, to my right. Hi, Jackie.
How's it going?
Good, thank you. Darren Butler across from you. Hello, Darren.
How you doing?
The fabulous James Hayes, who's finally here. James, move in so you can talk.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good. And I believe this is Nick Pete as well.
It is.
Nick, how's it going?
I'm well.
Very good. So let me tell you. Oh, God, hang on. Let me just tell you a little bit about each of these people sitting around the table here, to the best of my ability. Jackie Samel is in New Orleans. Am I saying your name right?
No.
How is it pronounced? Jackie. I got that bit right.
Summel. Like some will say you will, some will say you won't. The smell is like a little too close to smell. Which
oh, really?
Childhood trauma.
What other ways have you had it badly pronounced or mispronounced?
I mean, that was the worst, what you just said. But
what about Sumal?
It's kind of, that's just like trying to make it sound sophisticated and insulting at the same time.
Okay. But
Summel.
Summel. How much harder, easier could it be, right?
Right. Some will say you will, some will say
some
you
will
won't.
say you will. Okay, shall I start again?
Do it.
Okay. Jackie Summel is in New Orleans.
Let's talk about this longer.
Let's shred.
Okay. Jackie Summel is a New Orleans artist and activist whose work interrogates the abuses of the American criminal justice system. Jackie is best known for her project, The House That Herman Built, an art installation aimed at drawing attention to the cause of freeing Angola inmate Herman Wallace, who had spent 40 years in solitary confinement. Think about that for a minute. That's long enough. The House That Herman Built became a PBS documentary as well as an art installation. Largely as a result of Jackie's activism, Wallace was ultimately freed, but died 3 days after he was released. Oh my goodness.
It's true.
It's all true so far, so good, right?
Yeah.
On a lighter note, okay, that's good. On a lighter note, a previous art activist piece of Jackie's was a challenge to then-candidate George Bush's election and his policies toward women. It was a project called No Bush. It's Not Yours, It's Mine, in which Jackie asked women to shave their pubic hair and send it to her in a plastic bag, which she then exhibited on a clothesline at the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Now, that's true, right?
That's true.
That's all true.
It's all true.
I see you're
it's
not laughing.
Fact.
Everyone at the table is laughing except you.
Are we not supposed to? This is like 15 years old. I'm not really sure why that's relevant.
I think it says on a lighter note, probably to balance this.
So is he reading your Wikipedia?
Someone's reading Wikipedia. That's what's happening.
It's a good. Well, it's a good counterpoint to the more serious political activism, I suppose.
Maybe.
Don't you think?
I mean, there's more recent things that are playful. But go on.
Well,
go
we
on.
might get onto
I
that.
think it's
That's
nice.
all I've
People
got.
like to talk about pubic hair.
That's all I've got.
Yeah,
Do they
that's
really?
true.
Yeah, they do.
What do they like to talk about and in what sense?
I mean, you tell me. You're the one who decided to talk about it, I guess.
Well, I just read the sentence that was given to me. What are you the person who's been hearing about pubic hair for a long time, apparently?
I have. It's actually an older art project, but it's very important in my own personal progress as an artist and an activist because it's the first time those two worlds really collided, and
Pubic
I
and
realized
hair.
pubic and hair, art and activism.
Oh, I see.
So I realized I could actually use my language as a visual artist to alter the perceptions of the status quo and or talk about things that were relative and important to me as a woman.
What was Bush's position on women's issues? I don't even know what it was. No, I don't remember. Is it?
Well, he didn't like ladies or black people, so there's two issues that I had to
Okay.
address.
He didn't actually come out and say that. Did he?
Not directly, but his first policy that
He
he
probably did a couple times.
James Moon.
he might have said it a few
Yeah, I
times.
think you probably said that. You could probably.
He actually came
Or
out.
if you look at
Definitely
his
saying
paintings
that.
right now, I think like the
Yeah.
he might have some messages.
Yeah.
of
Well,
like,
I hear if you peel the painting back, it's like just
Hatred?
Hitler. You know?
I think it's painting with numbers.
Or it's like copies of Hitler's paintings. If you
What-
peel back George Bush's paintings, it's Hitler's landscape paintings.
Well, Hitler
Under-
was a portrait and landscape artist, wasn't he?
Early
Before.
on.
I think it was
Yeah.
a couple
Originally,
things.
He went
He
to
did a
law
lot. I mean,
He went to law school.
I mean,
did
that
he?
was the
Art school.
start,
Cool.
Art school.
He did.
but he failed out.
soup,
He was
total
really bad.
self-starter.
He
Yeah.
wasn't.
Type of
He
guy.
dropped out of school. Hitler.
No, I think he failed out. I think he failed out of art school, and that was
Think I
like
might
what
have-
pushed
think I
him
might
into
have dropped the H
politics.
from-
I know. I feel like the
That's
H
what-
bomb
Yeah, maybe that
came
was-
out early.
So whoever failed him in art school. I mean, art is so subjective. How can you fail someone out of art school? Really?
I mean,
I mean, how bad would you have to be?
I
Or
think
how
that-
good? Maybe you're too good to be there.
I don't know. I
Wow.
feel like this is a point of
Yeah.
contention too, where people sort of feel like art is like the easy route, but I think you can be a really untalented artist and someone who necessarily doesn't or shouldn't be in art school. I mean, if you have like a dictator that like, you know, whose
Say
whose
Hitler.
goal in life is to perhaps execute 6 million people or something like that,
Well, he
maybe he
didn't set
shouldn't
out
be in
to.
art school. You know, it's like
Well, he
there's
would
a
have, but he wouldn't
difference.
have. Might not have been a dictator who was exterminating people if he had passed.
That's one theory that he like that his hyper masculinity and hatred for the world came out of a result of his rejection from art school.
That sounds a little simplistic, but hey.
It's not my theory. I'm just saying it's a theory.
Pretty complicated.
So if he passed,
Maybe
well, no,
they just didn't have art classes in the subdivision that he. I don't know.
maybe they just didn't appreciate it. I mean, there are plenty of artists who have died penniless.
We're talking about George Bush, right?
Oh, but I thought we were talking about Hitler.
I think I was talking about
No,
Hitler.
I was actually going to talk
We're
about.
still doing that?
I was going to talk about Van Gogh.
Oh,
Van Gogh died. Didn't he
funny.
die penniless?
Many
There you go,
artists.
Van Gogh.
Well, that's right. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone said he was shit and he wasn't worth anything. They didn't buy a painting, and now it's $11 million
cut his
or
ear
100.
off.
Cut his own ear off,
Yeah.
and now it's
Oh, for
100. How
love.
many $1 million is it to buy a Van Gogh now? What's a Hitler worth now?
I'm not sure if any of those exist.
I got a Van Gogh self-portrait sketch. hanging
Bullshit.
On my wall.
Really?
5 by 11. You know.
Off the calendar? Okay, talking of art.
No.
Talking of art, Darren Butler is here with us as well. Darren Butler is a New Orleans artist who, for many years, was an auto body collision repair person painting cars, while he dreamed about becoming an artist, much like Hitler. Except
Yeah.
I don't think Hitler repaired his own car. I mean, what did Hitler drive? Do we know?
Man, why did I say
Probably a Jeep. He probably drove a Jeep or something. Or
the Jeep?
Hitler drove a Jeep.
BMW.
Did they make BMWs back then? I suppose.
I think the
Yes, they
start
did.
of
Volkswagen?
the start of the BMW was with the Nazi Party. True or false?
No.
Close
Look it
to
up.
it. Close to it.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think they
You
built
know
most of
something
their
about that,
cars,
Nick?
Yeah.
Nick, how do you know about that?
I mean, I know a little bit about history here and there. So
Okay. So, did the BMW start with?
I couldn't swear that it started with
The
the
Nazis.
Third Reich, but I'm sure they were. I think BMW were helping to craft engines for a lot of war planes and war machinery.
Did they?
I
Do we,
believe
do
they
we
did.
know that for? Do you know that for a fact?
I think the
Before-
Volkswagen did.
Volkswagen made
Yeah,
engines
like,
for the concentration camps.
I'm thinking.
Made the AC system. Who made the AC for the concentration camp?
Google it.
How'd that guest good idea?
Friedrichs.
How'd the gas get into?
Weirdly,
Someone
because
had
it
to
was
make-
a Jewish company.
Someone had to make a machine.
No,
Friedrichs.
don't go there.
Well, Friedrichs is German. Is it Jewish necessarily?
You can be both. Just want to point that out.
Obviously, you can be both.
They're
Yes,
not
you can.
mutually
Not
exclusive
really relevant
anymore.
to me.
It's really great that we've got onto Hitler already. Finally,
That's
after
James's
painting
fault.
cars for many years, Darren found a way to integrate his technical skills and artistic sensibility in what has become his signature, colours in wood, which involves no painting whatsoever.
Yeah. I've done a lot of things in my last 15 years, but I started off painting automobiles, and I guess I just like to take stuff to the next level, like by combining things. I guess every 3 years I may do one medium, and the next 3 years I'm on to something else. I like to combine a lot of my skills that I have learned over the last couple of years.
Like pubic and hair.
Oh my gosh.
Well, the pubic hair and the no afro thing, so I guess that wouldn't work. I have an afro, but no pubic hair.
You have no pubic hair.
Just saying.
Just
Into it.
saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Jackie.
We've reached a new low very early on in this conversation.
I wouldn't say it's a new low, but it certainly is a low. I don't think it's anything new about it. But we
Onwards.
Couldn't we go up from here?
From no pubic hair? Yeah, totally.
I didn't know there was anybody who had no pubic hair. Is that normal?
Well, I guess.
Is it by choice?
It's
is
in
it
the
by
way.
yeah. I think it's by choice. Yeah, and the older you get, it's definitely
it
by
doesn't
choice.
just shave itself.
Okay, that's different. You shave your own pubic hair off.
Yeah,
Okay, all right. When did you start that? 15 years ago?
I guess about 15 years
When
ago.
you
That's a
became
good
an
number.
artist?
When I became an artist, I think it was cool.
What gave you the idea?
That's exactly.
think it looked
to the
better.
day.
It looks better. Okay.
Yeah.
Who's looking at it?
Oh my god.
Well, hang on. That's a fair
Well,
question, isn't
For
it?
15 years, I would imagine a lot of people.
Well, I guess I didn't want to be the only
He
person to
is.
admire it, so I guess
Yeah.
when someone
Right. Okay.
when my wife looks at it.
And she likes it
So
shaved.
back to the cars that you paint.
Yeah, I can finish reading this if you want. Or should I just let you go on?
Well, Reno, you finished reading.
It says you also work in metal and glass.
Yeah.
And it says your works have been commissioned by, among many others, the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, Shell Oil, New Orleans Magazine, the NFL Super Bowl 36, and jewelry designer Mignon Faget. Darren's work has been exhibited around New Orleans, across Louisiana, and around the country in galleries from Florida to Kansas.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yes.
So how did you actually quit working in metal and cars and make the leap?
Well, I went to LSU, and I guess as a kid, first of all, I am dyslexic. So I guess by me being dyslexic, I have the ability to think outside of the box. So, I guess being dyslexic, I get bored very fast. But as a kid, I always could draw and paint and stuff like that. But I went to a Votech school. I went to LSU, and from there I went to a Votech school to learn how to paint automobiles. And worked at Sue Cadillac, painted cars for a couple of years, and I got bored with that. And I started realizing that this is not what I really want to do the rest of my life. So I quit my job and started painting on wood. So that's why I came up with the idea of colors in wood, where I stain the colors in the wood and I don't use any paintbrushes. It's all stained, and I spray automobile clear coat on top. But I always had skills of working
Hang
with
on a
metal.
sec. You just quit your job. You were getting paid to paint cars, I assume.
Yeah.
With nothing else to do, no safety net, nothing, and just started this
Well, I quit twice. First time I quit
by
painting car.
smoking.
No, I haven't quit smoking.
You
Well,
still smoking?
I don't smoke cigarettes,
What are you
but I do
smoking?
smoke.
Just weed.
Oh yeah, I do smoke weed.
Wait. So
Okay.
you paint
James.
with stain on wood? You don't, is that what you meant?
Well,
Is that what it says?
I stain the colors into the wood with paper towels. I stain it with paper towels, and
Do you have an endorsement from a paper towel manufacturer?
It should.
You should, definitely.
Viva, it should.
It's Viva paper towels you use.
yeah,
we need
it's
to
Viva paper
we need to
towels,
get in
the
touch
one
with them quickly.
that
Who's
I
your
definitely-
manager?
That definitely is, but I spray automobile clear coat on top to make it look like it's glass, but it's all stained into the wood to make it like it's inlaid, really. So I started doing that, and from that, one of my paintings was on the Louisiana lottery, on a $2 scratch off about 4 years ago. I won a contest, a statewide contest, and from there, from being on the lottery ticket, I have sold paintings for $10,000 at art shows, stuff like that.
So you're
I
rocking.
have. I mean, it's the life of
Yes.
an artist. It's highs and lows. Sometimes you make money, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, but it's better than going into Sewell Cadillac every day and breathing in those fumes.
Well, that's true. I mean, most joyful in life is doing something that you always wanted to do. So being an artist is, I think, probably one of the best things I've ever done in my whole entire life.
Other than shaving.
it's right up there.
Okay. James Hayes is here as well. James is the frontman and founder of the New Orleans band, the Lovey Doveys. Lovey Doveys is a vehicle for James's songwriting in which various aspects of self-loathing and dark observations of the human condition are captured with such lyrical dexterity and musical talent that you can't do anything but laugh and enjoy it. That's a very good description, I would say.
It's
Wouldn't you?
pretty confusing.
I'd say that's a pretty fair description.
Okay.
If you are an awesome songwriter, let's face it.
Thanks, Grant.
I wish you had been here last week.
Oh.
Well, let's get on to that in a minute. Lovey Doveys have two excellent recordings, one self-titled, the other called Shive, which can be found wherever good music can be streamed and stolen. In New Orleans, you can see Lovey Doveys live in various locations around town, if you keep an eye on their Facebook page, and you can see the band complete with a new lineup around the country when they hit the road on tour very soon, actually, right?
Yep.
What part of the country are you going to? Around the south?
No, we're too far south already. Yeah. We're going on tour in
Okay,
November.
somewhere. So we can. I went on to loveydoveys.com, which was a major mistake, of course, just to see what was going on.
There's a lot of images without pubic hair.
Well, there's no pubic hair, which I was
undergoing sort
shocked.
of an overhaul. And
Nothing is up there since
this-
2012 was the last time.
Well,
anyone-
yeah. Well, if you look at it now, there's absolutely nothing on there.
Nothing at
So
all.
You won't have to be bothered with old dates anymore.
Okay,
because there's
so you just
nothing
took it
there.
all down.
Yeah. Well,
Good move.
we're overhauling. We're
Okay.
cleaning house.
So it's going to come
So-
back up.
I don't know. That's
Really? You might have no website. That would be super cool.
right.
An awesome
Well,
idea.
we'll keep the domain name going.
Just
We'll
lovey doveys.
make our own.
Why don't you
you
just
know.
put foreign language? Just put Japanese stuff up there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just fool everybody.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great idea for
Or
publicity, though.
There's so many
To have-
ancient dialects that you could
Well,
put.
you could put
a
Aramaic.
404 error not found message in.
That's a good idea. Just
You
put a whole
know?
bunch of code up there. Jackie, your
Bunch of
website's
code.
wacky as all hell too.
No, it's not that wacky.
It
Which one
says
did you look at?
coming soon, coming soon, coming soon, and coming soon. That's what I
you
saw.
looked at summel.org. It's hermanshouse.org is the one.
Oh, that's the right one to
Yeah,
go to. Oh, okay. I made the mistake of just Googling your name.
Yeah.
Fatal. Can
I feel like most Google engines will point you towards the Herman's House or the film website.
Okay.
But you actually have to put in a little effort to get to the summel.org. That's kind
Do
of
you?
yeah, it's buried.
Well,
it's a
that was
buried treasure.
nobody on this show is responsible for that department. I can guarantee you that. Hey, listen, let me introduce you as well to Nick Pete, who just walked in as well. Hi, Nick.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Nick. It says here you're an Australian filmmaker.
Well, I'm a filmmaker and Australian.
Well, that's
Yeah.
pretty accurate so far. 3 words and 3 out of 3.
Yeah.
Australian filmmaker who lives in New York and is in New Orleans showing his film Sweet Candy at the New Orleans Film Festival.
Yes.
Nick lived in New Orleans for a year while he was shooting Sweet Candy. The movie is a modern take on Romeo and Juliet set in New Orleans, in which Romeo is in jail and Juliet's a stripper who lives under the thumb of her drugged-out detective father. Okay,
Wow.
I couldn't have.
That's the soap opera version of it.
That's a nice sentence. Let's break that sentence down.
Okay.
Romeo is in jail, and Juliet is a stripper who lives under the thumb of her drugged-out detective father.
Yeah.
Did you write this as well?
I did not write that.
No, not this. Did you write the script?
I did write the script. Yeah.
How'd you come up with that story?
Well, going back, actually, I mean, I've lived in New Orleans for more than a year. I've actually been kind of living on and off here since like 2000. So
That's about 18 years.
it's about 14
Oh,
years.
14.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
So the story is just kind of had elements of some autobiographical elements, not entirely.
You're not a stripper yourself.
I'm aiming to be, but I'm not quite
Do you
there
have?
yet.
Are you a drugged-out guy who has a daughter who's a stripper?
detective.
No, I've known enough drugged out people though.
Okay.
And at different times in my life, I've probably been drugged out
Drugged
enough to.
Right.
So.
Do you smoke pot as well, like
no,
Darren?
no, I don't.
Well, you don't?
I don't.
Why is that?
I don't. Just not my thing.
What's your thing?
Now, nothing.
No drugs.
No,
Drug-free.
No drugs. I'm drug free. Yeah.
Since when? 4:30.
No, probably about 10 years ago.
10 years. Good move.
Yeah.
So you never smoked pot. You weren't a pot smoker.
No, I wasn't.
Okay. What did you do?
I wasn't. I've done other things.
Just cocaine mostly. That's the
Other
film.
things.
People in the
I've
film
done a lot of
business
other things.
do a lot of cocaine, don't they? Jackie, you were in the film business tangentially, right?
I was the subject of a film.
It was a PBS documentary about you. Mm-hmm. Does that make you in the film business? Not really.
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
What
I'm
was
not
it?
sure.
What was it about?
It was about this.
You're in like the best part of that.
You think?
You're a
Why, 'cause
star.
it's so dirty.
Because that way you don't have to, it's, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. For me, it was kind of weird, just being followed around by cameras and like.
It must
It
be
was a
weird.
bit insensitive in terms of like people wanting to get the shot or the conversation or whatever.
Yes.
Maybe you can speak
Intrusive,
to this.
yeah,
It was very intrusive.
Yeah.
But you don't make documentaries, Nick, do you?
I don't, but I mean, I have friends who make documentaries. I like documentaries. I mean, kind of my film has a kind of a documentary quality to it to a degree. I mean, a third of it is shot actually in Angola, and I have a pretty profound kind of interest in prison culture, just because for whatever reason. One of my significant partners had spent close to 9 years in prison. So
For what reason?
It had been everything from assault to armed robbery to institutional arson to solicitation to all kinds of things.
This is somebody you're in love with?
It's somebody who I was with for 4.5 years. Yeah. So.
How'd you end that? Did she try and kill you?
Did she try and kill me? She did try to kill me at a certain point. At one point, yeah. But that's not how it ended.
You stayed together after she tried to kill you?
Yeah.
Holy hell! What
Yeah.
what would you think
Yeah.
about that?
Well.
You must
it
have
was
really
just-
been in love with her. Did you? What was the reason she tried to kill you?
She had her reasons, which weren't necessarily connected to reality, but
Right. But what were they? What was she thinking?
she was thinking that I was seeing somebody else. So.
Were you, in fact?
No, I wasn't. But
Shit,
I
lucky
mean,
she didn't kill you then.
true. Yeah. She probably killed a part of me, but I'm still.
Would she
I'm
have
still
killed
here,
herself
so-
if she had successfully killed you?
I don't think so. No.
Damn.
But I mean, from the outside, that all sounds kind of like dramatic. But it's like
No, no.
part of the sort of fascination was, and part of the reason for making the film was, I mean, even in terms of prison and just incarceration and so on. I mean, that culture is interesting just because the forces that are happening inside a prison are the forces that are happening and playing out in society, except they're happening in a much more compressed environment. And as a result, they tend to manifest themselves in much, in very intense ways. And also the stress it puts under personalities and the stress it puts people under when they're incarcerated causes them to do quite bizarre things sometimes. Now to say, I've had friends who've spent time, quite a long period in prisons. It's kind of like breaking the stigma. I mean, there's, I used to say my partner, when people met her, some of them said, look, this girl was so smart, she could have been the next president of the United States. But she had not been brought up, she'd
Right.
had a pretty tough upbringing, and that was not the stream that she had learnt. She was extremely capable, extremely intelligent, extremely caring, extremely, many, many things. But
It's funny how people drift into different, like all of us have drifted into whatever we do.
sometimes it's not drifting into it. Sometimes you're just
Pushed.
shoved into it.
Yeah.
You are
What
pushed.
shoved her into a life of crime then? Where is she today, by the way? Is she listening
I
to
don't
this?
know. I don't know.
You lost touch with her?
I did. There was a certain point where it just became that I had gone away for a while, and she had rebuilt her life. She had, managed to do a lot of positive things, and then I'd gone away I'd actually had to go overseas, and I came back, and I had a series of messages from a correctional facility.
On your answer machine.
On my answering machine.
This
I
is
was
a
like-
collect call from.
and I
I've
was
had
just like,
tons of those.
It was just that was
Wow.
the end of it. Yeah.
Wow. Did you get a lot of those from Angola too, Jackie?
They're not actually collect calls. You pay
Well,
it
you-
forward.
yeah, you pay,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
you're eligible to receive phone calls. But yeah, I mean, at the start of our relationship, Securus.com, exactly, or JPay now is the big one. Yeah. I mean, conversations over the phone are really the only way to communicate with the human being that's incarcerated.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so
And
James.
on a note, if we want to keep talking about this, a lot of times when people are in jail, they start doing favors for each other, and phone usage is so erratic that, if you talk to, an incarcerated family member, a lot of times they'll kind of have you, maybe do a favor for someone else that's inside that can't get something done. I don't know. People do favors for each other.
Totally.
You know.
And they do it on the outside too, but I think
You know,
what Nick
that's
said is
true.
really
Yeah.
significant. Like, it's much more hyperbolic and exaggerated when it's in prison, and
Yeah.
I think like it's also very fair to say that this woman that you were with sounds amazing, right? But that prison has become the go-to punishment for mental illness or poverty or drug addiction, and I think that that's not acceptable in
Sure,
2014.
It's a place that
Exactly.
people are just deposited if they just don't fit within, more sadly now, but within the economic strata, within the so-called functioning economic strata. If you're not perceived to be valuable to that, a good place for you to go is to prison.
Well, we have the biggest prison population in the world, the United States, right?
By far, yeah.
And
Two
per
and a half-
capita,
two
it's
and-
the
two and a
city of
half-
New Orleans.
Yeah, two
The
and a half.
city of New Orleans.
In the
It
world.
does.
Yeah.
We're number one
We are
for the
number
per
one.
capita rate of incarceration.
America is the number one country, and
And we're number
Louisiana is
one.
yep.
Louisiana's
Yep.
number one.
Yep.
Louisiana, we have more people in prison in Louisiana than any other state per capita in the country.
And New
But I didn't
Orleans
know
has-
that New
I
Orleans
wonder
was
if they
involved.
group Baton Rouge and New Orleans together, like how they figure out that's.
No, I don't think I don't think
You
they
know?
need to. I think
Yeah.
and also like much of Angola is farmed from the city of New
Right.
Orleans
Right.
itself. So there's a huge community of incarcerated families of incarcerated loved ones in the city of New Orleans itself, and it's so normalized that it's actually it's unnerving. That almost everybody you meet in New Orleans knows someone who's incarcerated.
It sounds
I
like
just had
around
a
this
friend
table,
just got
Darren,
out from Angola that he done 20 years. Just got out. I had another friend just got out for he did 16 years in prison. Just got out, say, like a couple of weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago.
What are they like now?
Well, one of them, I told him that
Shell
I
shocked.
said, no, I said, man, you look good because, you look good like you've been lifting weights. So, I mean, what can you tell a person after 20 years, been in prison, and you see him on the street? I mean, I said, you didn't miss anything. I mean, you look good.
Didn't miss anything.
I mean, that's all I can say.
Okay.
You've been lifting weights. I mean, I said,
So
you
that's
look
probably
good.
what he has been doing.
Yeah.
But how is he?
Well, I guess the funny part of the story is, when everybody get out, they find Jesus.
Really?
And, they find Jesus and stuff like that. And then the next week or two, they're right back to the old self. And then from there, they can't find a job because they've been convicted. And then some of them go back to doing the exact same thing they was doing before. And that's what this guy is doing. I feel bad.
In 2 weeks?
Like after 16, 20 some years, you can, all it takes is the same amount of time.
To go back in?
Yeah, that system does not work,
Yeah, the recidivism is the issue because there's no structure for folks who are formerly incarcerated persons to have but the world has changed,
Right.
whether or not you've been incarcerated for a year, 10 years, 20 years, or 40 years, and then you come out and there's very little provision. So I don't think it's by choice that they go back to the lifestyle
I
that
agree.
incarcerated them. I think it's the fact that they've been, deemed a third-class citizen, and they don't have access to the basics, in terms of Maslow's triangle, basic housing, education, healthcare, technology, an end to police brutality, the basics that
Darren,
we
you
are
don't
guaranteed.
look like you agree with
well,
this theory.
I just think that it is within them. This sense, the people that I grew up with, that actually went to prison. I mean, I know a lot of people that went to prison. I have a lot of friends who are in prison right now, and I know a guy that just got dead. He did 24 years in prison. He was in a federal penitentiary, and he got out. He was a pickpocket artist, and
You got 24 years for picking pockets?
he did a lot. He did
He
a lot.
needs
He
a
did
better
lot.
lawyer.
He did a lot of stuff. And real nice guy you see him, but I wouldn't sit next to him because he'd be in your pocket. And he got out of jail about, say, 6 months ago. He's right back in for his doing credit card fraud. I mean, he had like $30,000, doing credit card fraud. So that's why our credit card fees are so high. So I'm pissed with him on stuff like that. But I know this guy. You see what I'm saying? I see him on the street. But that's what they do. I mean, you see him, you wouldn't know who we are. I see him, I'm like, I'm hiding my wallet, but that's...
Well, that sounds more like mental illness. If you have career criminals who don't have access to any other way to channel or transform what they know, and I think that if prison becomes a place where there is reformation, where you can actually reform and have the opportunity to learn other life skills, then maybe we could criticize the individual. But right now, it's the system that needs to be criticized, not the individual. We're spitting people back out to bring them back in.
I agree and disagree because I just think that some of the people that I grew up with, I mean, I could have been that person also. So I think we all grew up in the same neighborhood. I mean, my brother spent like 7 years in prison, and right now he's like, not saying scared straight, but I could have walked through that path also. But I chose to be an artist, but I always never was a follower. I always was a leader. I think some of those people who go to jail was followers. Some of them. Now, they're just saying the people that I know. And I know about at least about at least 10 people I know that's right now that's in jail and done 10 to 15 years and got out. And I had some people in my family. I think it's your upbringing also. Like my cousin did like 2.5 years, and he's fine now. But I know other people that I grew up with. I mean, I know people who had killed people. I know a guy that killed like 3 people. And I asked him one time about it, and he killed a friend of mine. So he did juvenile life, and I said, "Man, you killed somebody." He said, "Man, I'm doing time standing on my head." I'm like, "Really?" And he got out. He killed 2 other people, and it's strange. And I see him like I'm sitting next talking to you, and just having a conversation with this guy, and it's a strange thing. But this guy did it and went to jail for it and done like 10 years. And some people do less crime and go to jail and get 20, 30 years, and this guy killed somebody. So, but is he a career criminal, or he's the person who want to go back to jail?
Are we addressing the issues that made him a quote-unquote criminal in the beginning? And is it the responsibility of society to do so? Which is, I think, I would say yes, absolutely. If we don't want to perpetuate criminal behavior, then when we have this critical moment of incarcerated persons who may have had the same lifestyle or same upbringing as you, and then made a really bad decision and or have this patterned behavior, like all of us have our issues, right? And then there's a critical moment where we have friends intervene, loved ones intervene, where we get sober, where we get mental health, where we do yoga, whatever it is, that changes our path, right? Where we decide that this is not the path for us. And if we have this really critical moment where we have an incarcerated population and we're not doing anything to change their paths, then that's the issue. The issue isn't the human being or the human doing.
Well, to me, I think it's more. There are more men in prison than there are women. But to me, I look at society for my upbringing. I look at some of these guys I grew up with, and they had choices. I mean, I went to public school. I'm not the best reader, speller, stuff like that.
You're dyslexic.
I'm dyslexic, and I know a lot of people who are dyslexic also. But the point I'm trying to make is, when I was growing up, either you're going to be a musician, football player, or something like that. But a lot of these guys during the 80s decided to be drug dealers because they didn't really want to work. And so they did the time.
I agree, but I mean, there's also, to some degree, there's a variety of reasons people go to jail or prison. I mean, and you can't necessarily say, whether you could say sometimes they're good reasons or bad reasons. But if you look just statistically at who is in prison, how many people are in prison, and why they're in prison, the realistic answer to all of those things is that you have a system that is not supporting that segment of the population, and that because most of the people who are in prison are minority, most are poor, and
undereducated,
and there's a distinct lack of education, and people can't do something if they haven't been taught how to do it. You cannot just presume that everybody starts off on an equal footing. They don't. The system is stacked. And I'm not a conspiracy sort of theory kind of guy, or it's like the system is trash and all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, it is not a level playing field.
Oh no.
People come into situations in which they are not afforded the opportunity, they're not afforded the knowledge, they're not afforded the patience, they're not afforded the care, they're not afforded the respect. And there's this thing at the moment where if you can't see a place for yourself in the system, why would you want to belong to it?
Hasn't it always been like that? And how realistically would we change it?
Well, there has to be a will to change it. And unfortunately,
I'm sure everybody would agree that nobody wants to be having a giant prison population or people breaking the law, people or
not
friends
everybody.
killed.
Not everybody.
You don't think? You think most people in America would?
It's become such a business that it's so
well, there
profitable.
is that side to it. It is a private enterprise, yeah.
If they took all that money from contracts for building prisons and then just chain branded psychiatry and social
Social
services,
services.
basically.
But it's not just
know.
it's just not the economic thing. I mean, even when you say it's a business. It's a business now on an emotional and mental level. It's like anything that's complicated and that doesn't quite fit the a sort of a sort of a doesn't fit kind of like the ad speak that we live in. The place to just deposit it is in that other place, that dark space, that place of punishment, of retribution, of guilt.
Yeah, but not everybody who's a freak goes to jail. I mean, all
Absolutely
of us
not.
sitting
No,
around
not
here.
at all, not at all.
Unless you like being
And-
around men.
No, but I'm just saying there's
You lost me on that one.
it's not just
It's not just punishment of being free. There has to be one more step. I think what you're saying, what Jackie and you're saying, Nick, is that this society lays the table for you to, or sets the conditions in which you, or what Darren is saying, you can either choose or not choose to go one way or the other. So there's
My
both those
argument
things.
is
Both
whether or
those
not
things
the
are
conditions
true.
create like a booby trap mechanism that is conditioned. It's actually contrived to create the situation that makes it impossible.
But who's contriving it? Who in their right mind would want a
Well,
giant
at the heart
prison
of it, I
population?
think it's, and we haven't said this yet, is the idea that we live in a capitalist society where our value is wrapped up in what we have and how much we make. And to go back to your statement on whether or not this is like, well, hasn't it always been this way?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is yes, but now we're reaching a tipping point, I believe, where mass incarceration, where the idea that we are affected more directly by individuals who are incarcerated or under some sort of correctional control, probation, etc., is affecting individuals in ways that it has never before, right?
Because there's so many because the
Yeah,
prison
it's a
population is
tipping
so
point.
large.
Yeah, I mean, it's grown
It's an interesting
300%
theory, yeah.
since
Right.
1970.
Has it?
Right? 300%, yeah, since 1970.
There's 3 times as many people in jail since today than there were in 1970.
2.5
not,
million,
Not,
right.
not just, you mean per capita or actual numbers?
Numbers, 2.5 million. And then you look at the rates of disparity and how that affects people of color, particularly black men, right? And you're looking at numbers of like 1 out of every 8 black men are under some form of correctional control in the United States, and it's 1 out of every 100 men of European descent or white men, as we talk about it. And those numbers are exaggerated from even times of chattel slavery, right? So, and again, I think that has to do with actual numbers. So when you're looking at the so-called Emancipation Proclamation or 13th Amendment, and which partially abolished slavery, because I think there is a conversation between slavery and the prison industrial complex that is talked about more and more, and this is part of what's contributing to the tipping point. You're still at that point looking at 4 million Americans who were slaves and then former slaves, right, after 1865. Am I losing you guys? Or is
No.
it
Not at all.
Okay.
We're with you.
And then now you're looking at over 13% of the population who are directly affected by incarceration, mass incarceration.
13% of the American population of the country.
Are black.
13%
Are
of
black.
are black people.
Black people.
Not
but then
black
you're looking
men,
at
and
no,
they're
but
not
then you're
in
looking
jail.
at 51% of the prisons, jails, and detention centers that are filled by black men. That is a great disparity.
So what would you do then to change it? Suppose, can we come back to that in a minute after we do some shredding?
Oh, are we
I
going
want
to
to hear
shred?
the answer to definitely
Well,
not.
what's
No.
shredding?
No.
Can we do some shredding and then
handle that.
come back and hear what we're going to do to change the society so we get out?
Oh my God, can you do the
James,
lead
can-
in and then
James,
I'll give
can
the
you-
answer?
You want to just
Otherwise, we're
going
gonna
to
have to ask James about his tattoos.
The answer?
Yeah.
How about that? When we deliver the news.
I'll just sing "We Shall Overcome."
It's a cliffhanger. James, what are you going to play here?
What's it called? I don't know. Tell me.
We Shall Overcome.
Oh, okay. Let me.
Bruce Springsteen does an amazing
Oh yeah.
cover of "We Shall
Who's he?
Overcome." I don't know. Who is
James,
Bruce
seriously, what are you thinking of playing right now?
This is a song called Velour. In parentheses, beach cleft lip. I made the same mistake
It's very nice. James Hayes. Lovey-doveys indeed. Very nice. That changes the feeling a little bit, doesn't it?
I'm so glad you didn't get in a car wreck on the way here.
Yeah, so James, tell us, pull that microphone up a little bit and tell me what happened last week. So
about
last
this
week,
incarceration problem.
we're going to get back to how we're going to change the world. I promise. I'm not going to let you get off the hook, Jackie. But just tell us, James, what happened?
There's no hook here. This is what I do.
So last week we were supposed to be on the show,
Okay.
and then you never showed up, and then we went, what the hell happened to the guy? And then I hear you had a car wreck on the way.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. I after I talked to my lawyer.
Okay. Who did you call? One of those ones on TV? Michael Hingle?
Or- Bart?
I have family lawyers.
You've got a family lawyer.
Yeah, I got some,
You got any family in
I
jail?
got some, really smart aunts.
Really?
If I can put it to you that way.
Do you have any family?
Aunts.
Do you have any family in jail? That's all I'd like to know.
Also.
We'll get onto that in a minute. Who's in? Who's in?
Yeah.
Who's in
In
jail?
Prison.
Law school?
Prison is different.
Well, what's the
than jail.
diff?
There's a big difference between
Okay,
prison
what
and
is
jail.
it?
You're
Before you're
sentenced to
convicted.
prison.
Yeah.
And you're held in jail. So they're
I just
different.
use them interchangeably, but
Yeah,
they're not the
it's
same
annoying,
thing.
actually. They're different. So
Look-
if someone has been sentenced, they're in prison.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
What's the longest
jail
time
is what
anyone's
you.
ever been held in jail?
I don't know the answer to that, but I imagine
A
it's
long
It's
time.
absurd.
A long time.
That it's like
Yeah.
an absurd amount.
Yeah, we especially at OPP, we have
I
like.
bet it's over a year or so.
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah,
been
for
years.
sure.
Years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, people wait for trial. I mean, they're held here at OPP for
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 years sometimes before they,
Mhm.
and then
Oh,
they're
yeah.
found not guilty.
Yes.
And you've been remanded in custody for years. I mean, it's pretty common here, isn't it?
Very common.
Okay, so what happened? Who'd you call? What lawyer? Well, you don't have to say anyone's name.
yeah, wait.
You have to say anyone's
I
name.
don't know his.
Just tell us about the
I
accident.
don't know his jingle,
Ah,
so
yes, you got one?
I can't plug it.
So tell us what happened. So you're driving along. What street are you on?
Can I do that? I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, I had like a Geico investigator call me the other day.
Oh,
you
really?
know?
Are you
Yeah.
with Geico or
I
somebody
got
else?
letters that said "lawyer up."
Oh, my-
Oh.
What,
Yeah.
what happened? I mean,
Well, Geico sends letters in like
well, whoever you
in
hit,
layman's terms.
whoever hit
Just
you or
big block
you
letters. And you open it up and it's a centerfold.
Get a lawyer.
And there you are thinking, oh boy, what did I win?
Yeah.
And
It's,
so what happened? Did you hit someone? Did they hit you or what?
I idled into someone at a stoplight that had gone green.
Damn.
Have to. I need a
I
bit
did
more.
that thing where you look at the cars ahead of you instead of
The person right in front. I almost did it on the way
it's
here.
a
That's
truck
weird.
person problem.
So you was in
Yeah.
the wrong.
What?
No, I wouldn't say it was
I
in the wrong.
can't.
You can't admit
Definitely
that.
not.
You can't
Yeah,
admit
you
that.
plead
That's
the fifth.
exactly what
As
I
your
cannot
as your
do
attorney,
right
I have to advise you not to admit
Plead
you're
the
in the
fifth.
wrong. That's what's wrong with the
No,
whole
I was
fucking
totally in the
justice
wrong. I was
system, though,
totally
quite
in the
frankly,
wrong.
isn't it?
And I
Because-
totally jumped out, and immediately it was like I ran to her car, and I was like, "Are you okay?" You know, it was like maybe 4 feet, you know. But
Nobody
I
got
would've been
hurt.
spooked too if I got,
Nobody got
bumped
hurt.
into.
Did you get hurt?
No, she was fine.
How'd you get this
Everything
light
was
wound on
cool.
your face? Then?
Oh, that's a work wound. I got hit in the face by a 16-foot 2x4.
Oof.
Whoa!
It's all right.
On a building
I
site.
got up really quick.
Shit, that must have given you a fright, though.
Oh, just a little like red eye for the rest of the day.
More of a fright than
Sunglasses.
running into sunglasses.
Yeah.
So the last time I saw you, well, that wasn't the last time I actually saw you, but the last time we worked together.
Yeah, because I saw you in the street the other day. You were walking
Yeah,
your dog.
yeah.
It was a nice rainy day.
I had your.
and you were
I've
out
had your
for a walk with a
sunglasses.
friend of yours.
I've had your sunglasses at my undisclosed location for how long now?
I was going to say the address immediately.
I
but-
can't remember. I can't
don't
remember
know
how
it.
many years it's been. But last time you were on the show, James did the show with me, and we did a show about swingers.
Oh yeah.
And we had these people from the
Cop
swingers club.
Ex-cop swinger.
The guy was an ex-cop.
And
the
yeah, and he talked about putting like being at the swinger club, and some jealous husband would come up and he'd have to put him in a sleeper hold while he was, banging the guy's wife.
Yeah, that's hot.
It's very odd. Well, you can hear the show on our site. It's called Swingers, but we had to do the show in an undisclosed location because they wouldn't go in public. So we had to. We normally do the show in a
Oh,
bar.
was that why that
Yeah,
was there?
yeah. They wouldn't do it at
Oh.
those days. We're at the Columns Hotel
God,
before they
shameful
kicked us out,
swingers.
and then so we had to do it in our undisclosed location so that nobody would see them. And that's the last. And then James was so perturbed by the whole show, he left his sunglasses behind, and I've had them ever
Perturbed
since.
or excited?
So last time was the swingers, and this time was a car wreck. The time before that, today nothing serious except the 4x2 in the face.
2x4.
2x4, is it?
I mean,
What's the difference?
2x4 by 16.
By
there
16.
you go.
So you build.
Bam.
Well, you know a lot about building houses.
I do.
Are you? So you're still trying to build Herman's
I am.
house?
I'm still trying to build Herman's house.
So you have a lot, right?
Nope. We're actually working with the New Orleans Redevelopment Agency to secure several
Volunteer, bam.
lots. Awesome. That's great. We need
you
a lot
just
of
won
volunteers. Yeah, you should sing about
a
it.
finished
too.
carpenter and framer.
Oh, that's so great. We need as many of those as possible. I mean, Herman spent 41 years in solitary confinement for a crime he didn't commit. He was, as you said earlier, released on October 1st, 2013, and then he passed on October 4th, 2013.
Damn, that's
And
messed up.
it's intense, but it's also amazing that he died free, which was
Yeah,
the
that's true.
struggle. And he, while in a 6'9" cell from his 33rd year till his 41st year, designed this monstrous, fantastic home. And he was, he believed in his own innocence and he did believe in justice, but he was never convinced that he was going to be released. And the home is designed to be a community center for the children of New Orleans to prevent them from participating in the school to prison pipeline.
So this is one of the ways that you can intercept the
Yeah.
school to prison pipeline.
That's one way. I also think it would also affect fender benders or car crashes or any desire to retaliate against being quote unquote wronged, which I think this addiction to litigation in this country is also something that needs to be shifted, and that all boils down to a shift in consciousness and this desire.
Well, this is the change you're talking about.
The change that I'm talking about is, as Darren was saying earlier, is a very individual thing.
It's not systemic change then. It's not changing the system.
The system will change when there's a shift in personal consciousness, and we don't have this.
Okay, so how do we get to that? I mean, you can change the system by saying, "Oh, I'm going to go to Congress and I'm going to try and pass a bill," and all
doesn't
this.
always work.
Doesn't
right?
seem to work
But
at all.
I do think
but
that
how do we get to a shift in consciousness?
As I said, I think it's a very individual path, and I think what happens is that as we network, as we conversate, as we intersect with each other, we discover that there are certain people who are, less angry, less if you were to jaded, manipulative, less desire to punish, less desire
These
to have
people are not in
retribution.
control of the system.
And
Quite the
also
opposite.
less aggressive, and their value is not measured by
But
so much
none
how
of these
much they
people
make or how much they
none
get.
of these people are pulling the levers of power. Though.
But they
not
can,
one of them.
and I eventually believe they will. And actually, I think
How?
Jason Williams is actually a really
Jason
good
Williams
example.
is awesome. We love him. He was
Right.
on our show.
And I think it starts step by step.
if we
piece
could
by
find
piece.
a few. But look at
So
all
look,
this.
Graham,
Look at our,
right? We started
look
off.
at our awesome president.
I wouldn't necessarily say that, but I
That's
would
what I'm
also
saying.
say
That guy started off. Could there have been anybody who was more elected with the consciousness of the people behind him?
Wow. Then we're
No
looking.
one.
And look what happened. Everyone gets corrupted away from it. Is the thing.
Because I think the moral constitution of the individual is not is lacking at this
Yeah,
point
but
in
if
time,
you're,
and that's
if
because
you're
the
seriously
carrot
talking
is,
about changing the system for real,
Wait,
if you're
but
really going to do it,
nobody thought
there was going to be a serious
the
answer to
things
that.
people say about I don't know.
No, go on, say it.
I think that people presume that people that voted for Obama expected the world, as opposed to expected something that
the
was
lesser of two evils.
much lesser.
Well, that's my whole point, though.
Yeah.
We all did. Everybody voted
Right?
for
We're
this.
cynical
For
Democrats.
we
so
voted
we
for
were
a poster.
Really, just looking for the lesser of two.
Well, we
evils,
voted for this
so.
person. I don't think it would be possible to imagine anyone who had the consciousness of the country
Because
and the world
those
behind.
that
He
are
won a Nobel
voting need-
Prize even before he did anything, and the whole world was behind him.
I think George Bush also won a Nobel
No, I
Peace
wouldn't
Prize.
say.
So I feel
don't
like
think,
this is not.
I don't know whether that's true or not. I don't think he did actually.
I think
for
he
what?
did.
Chemistry,
You have to look it up. Look it up. I actually do. Think
literature.
Um,
Look it up.
I think for
I
art.
think we've got time.
No, I think for the Iraq War. I think you have to look it up.
Did he really?
Yeah.
But anyway, Obama won a Nobel Prize for
Mission
peace before.
accomplished.
The point is, he
Have
won a Nobel
amazing.
Prize for peace before he even did anything. He had only been president for 5 minutes. No, the point is that everybody was behind him. And what I'm saying is, it's so difficult to imagine the consciousness. There was a huge groundswell of hope that this guy was going to.
You are putting the cart before the horse. So what
Okay.
I'm saying is that as consciousness changes amongst
It's
the
under each
individuals
word.
and amongst just drop the H-bomb again, and amongst society, then we have the ability to say we don't actually have to vote within this binary system of politics, the binary system of justice, guilty or innocent, or like make our decisions based on this.
So get out of the binary system of A
Which
or B.
requires individual
white.
like dignity and consciousness that extends beyond what we have. And I think that also requires, and it's sort of like once we're able to do that, we feel more confident voting for and voting out of that binary system. I don't want to say voting for an individual name because I don't necessarily...
Who would you vote for today if you had a choice? Who's going to change it?
Leslie Knope.
James Hayes.
James Hayes for president or mayor?
Leslie Knope.
Leslie Knope.
Who's
I'm going to
that?
write that down. N-O-P-E.
Parks and Rec.
Oh, I don't have a TV.
Nick, I'm going to make you weigh in on this.
TV, okay.
I'm going to make you
The
weigh in on
only
this.
feminist character
You're gonna make me
on
Weigh in
broadcast
on this
television.
subject.
Well,
Changing the
I'm
world.
just sort of
What's your theory?
Listening, it's tough.
Well, you're a
I don't know.
filmmaker. You have a lot of power.
Do I?
If you make a successful movie, yes.
Yeah.
You have more power
Yeah,
than
true,
anybody.
True. I mean, I think change is a hard thing. It's like I think that one of the things is that change happens when the kind of the zeitgeist changes. I agree that it's very much a part of just consciousness, and that people have to take on, I guess, just personal responsibility. Are they living their lives the way they want to? Are they living it with a sense of purpose and conviction? I mean, I think to some degree, I don't think change is really a moral decision. It's not necessarily about. I mean, people talk about if you want to solve the problem, you don't go to the people who created the problem to solve it. and in a way, it's like, the system has its problems. I'm not anti-system. I'm not one thing or another. But I mean, I think that.
What do you think?
To me, the big thing is it happens on a personal level. Are you like I said?
Well,
are
what's
you
your
living life?
personal responsibility? You've been involved in this kind of lifestyle. You've been up close and personal with it. You have a ability to make movies, apparently.
Yeah.
You can change people's thinking. Do you think you
yeah,
have a
I mean-
responsibility to put those two things together, or are you an artist outside that?
No. I think the other thing with change is that change happens through setting an example. If you walk into a situation saying, "I am going to change it," I mean, you could change it for the better. You could change it for the worse. Is that a product of your ego? Is that that's a product of your beliefs, your systems, your
Good
way?
question.
I don't know.
That's a good
But
question.
what
Is
I'm
Jackie's
saying
ideas any better than the current?
all I'm saying is that, for me, how I change is that I try to interface with people in a real way on their terms and let them see my terms. And if we can come to an agreement and an understanding of each other, feel each other, say, this is what I know, this is what I think, let the other have, do that too. This is what I know, this is what I think. And then for us to come to an agreement, that in itself is change, because what happens is that you get a chemical reaction between these two elements. And that is truth. That's a way forward. Not my way, not your way, our way. So,
Most people won't let you have your way, though.
well,
Most people
sure,
want to
that's
have their
the battle,
own
of
way.
course. I mean, that's the battle. I mean, change, usually happens slowly, and then it hits a tipping point, and then it goes. And then people see the
well,
value
we have
of
seen
something.
that in a
It's
lot
like-
of other social issues, haven't we?
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean,
Same-sex marriage. Most people in America believe that same-sex marriage is cool now.
sure. And even, 6-7 years ago, that was a
Not
no-no.
part of the
Yeah,
conversation.
it was just like, and all of a sudden, boom.
And then
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah,
like
yeah.
every state in America
Yeah.
except ours is okay with
Yeah,
it, basically.
yeah. So you
So
do, I mean,
things
you
do
need
change.
Yeah, they do.
Graham.
Hello. I just want to say what Nick just said about coming together. It's not your way, it's not my way, it's our way. That's what happened with same-sex marriage, because people started meeting people who were in same-sex relationships, and they realized that the world was not going to fall apart.
Right. That's Graham DePonte, our fabulous producer, who put this whole show together. What happened to James? He just ran away with his guitar.
I think he's warming up.
Okay.
He's
So-
he's getting ready for We Shall Overcome.
Okay. Yeah, James.
Graham, did we find out whether or not George Bush won a Nobel Peace Prize?
He did not.
Was he nominated?
definitely no
Well,
nominations.
anybody could be
don't think-
nominated,
yeah,
I
don't
guess,
think
right?
Nominations are
Not-
announced.
Can you
Any
nominate
candidate.
anyone get nominated for a Nobel Prize?
I think look
I
it
will
up.
nominate you, Jackie, if
Oh,
you
that's
if
really
you
sweet.
nominate me.
No, it doesn't. I don't play that.
I
game.
would like to be nominated for chemistry.
Jimmy Carter won when George Bush was invading Iraq.
Jimmy Carter won a Nobel Peace Prize when George Bush was invading Iraq, Chris says. Okay. That was George Bush 1.
Two.
Two.
2002.
Okay.
Carter won when George Bush.
Yeah. Jimmy Carter won.
Well, that's
okay,
significant.
okay. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Okay, so Jackie, what are you doing these days?
A lot, actually.
Yeah.
I'm still working on the campaign to free Albert Woodfox, who's in his 42nd year of solitary confinement.
So there are 3 guys. It
In
was
the
called the
state of
Angola
Louisiana.
3. Now, one of them's out, one of them's dead, and one of them's inside still.
That's correct. Yeah. So Albert Woodfox is into his 42nd year of solitary in the state of Louisiana. He has been convicted of the same crime that kept Robert King 29 years in solitary and Herman Wallace 41 years in solitary confinement.
These have got to
wrongful
be.
conviction.
This has got to be the longest solitary confinement in
Albert
the
is,
history of
yeah.
the world, I would assume.
Albert is, yeah.
And what good is this doing anybody?
No good.
Right.
But like when we were talking about this idea of like moral conviction, perhaps you could say unity of purpose and the ability to be a leader rather than a follower, Herman, Albert, and Robert were all incredible leaders that addressed the issues of the system and the issues of the individual within the prison, and they physically were able to change Angola prison through filing writs, like going through the actual process of the system, participating in the system, but then also morally change the system by educating prisoners and in radical black history.
Well, I mean, just on a practical terms, what are these guys doing every day for 23 hours in a tiny little cell by themselves? I mean, it obviously must drive you insane.
I mean, most
What are they
individuals go
doing?
insane.
I would think you
and-
would go totally nuts.
Yeah, Juan Mendez, who is the UN rapporteur on torture, says that after 15 days, it should be illegal and immoral to remain in solitary confinement, that it is cruel and unusual punishment, which is allegedly protected by our Eighth Amendment.
But what happens to you? I mean, well, there's 2 things. One is, what are you doing all day? The second, it's kind of, is it possible, have they reached any kind of new sort of form of consciousness, like sitting by yourself all day?
This
without-
is the individual choice that we
Right.
went back to, right? So Herman, Albert, and Robert, and I know this intimately because these have become my elders and the folks that I look up to and have looked up to the longest. And my understanding is that they have lived a life of service and selflessness, and this is the consciousness and the shift in consciousness that I think is necessary. And their life became more about what could they give, what could they contribute, than what could they take. And so their time in solitary confinement was committed to ensuring that no one else would ever have to endure the same kind of torture. And that gave them the power to endure and to survive and to overcome the unimaginable. Not everybody is made of that, right? Has that constitution.
Well, what's interesting is that there's 3 individuals who are all in solitary confinement and are not in contact with each other, I assume, are they?
They were at times, yeah, for sure.
They were? They
Yeah.
were allowed to be in touch with each other?
I wouldn't call it allowed, but they were able to
They
be
were
in
able
touch
to
with-
be.
Yeah.
So did they collude on this collective consciousness, or did they just all come to the same conclusion independently?
Yes, yeah, they were all committed members of the Black Panther Party, which
but that
was
was-
based on self-determination and self-defense. And the Black Panther Party fought for equality, equal access to land, bread, water, housing, education, healthcare, control of technology, and end to police brutality for all poor and oppressed people. You know, and it was like the language around that was bastardized by COINTELPRO in the 1970s to make it look like this violent black radical gang, right? Which was like the #1 destructive power.
So you're a great spokesperson for all this movement.
I'm not sure.
You would seem to be, don't you think?
Well, I agree.
Yeah. I think
I've
you're-
had amazing elders, so I've had amazing teachers in my
But
life.
you're sticking with it.
Yeah, I'm not stopping.
Right.
I think solitary confinement is cruel and unusual punishment, and the fact that at any given moment we have 80,000 men, women, or children in solitary confinement in the United States
That's
is
another interesting statistic.
disgusting.
There's 80,000 people in the United States in solitary confinement.
At any given moment, yeah, at least. So it's
Good
heartbreaking.
Lord.
So the shift in consciousness is to be able to say that we all think it's wrong and we all think it's valuable to change the system.
I think everybody would agree. I can't even imagine anybody not agreeing
But
with that.
it's
And if
not
that's
the
all it's going to
priority,
take.
right? So until it becomes a priority for all of us to recognize that while one person
Okay, so that's your job.
suffers-
That's your job, is to make it an issue.
I'm trying.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, that's
and
what
I'm
you're
trying
doing.
really
Yeah.
hard.
Well, that's how you do it. This is how you do it. One thing at a time, one stupid podcast at a time, and then you have a movie made about you.
It won an Emmy.
You just won an Emmy. Congratulations.
That's cool.
Who's
you're
gonna
doing
play
it.
Grant?
It's totally cool.
It's very,
and,
it's amazing.
Is it time for a musical interview?
Yeah, it is. James, we're going to get you to play a song, and then we have to actually get out of here and make way for paying customers.
We'll play a old one called Betrayed. Played it for you a couple times ago. You've heard it, Grant.
I betrayed all my friends. I cheated on my woman again. I lied to my grandma. I even kicked the dog. I went fishing, didn't eat the catch. My dad calls, never calling back. I put a lot of shit to my arms. I broke into the car when I was drunk at 8 a.m. And I dreamt of murdering. I got jerked off in the park. My family's torn apart. Well, if there's one thing that you should hear before you come with me, I'm the kind of guy I'll always make you unhappy. Oh, baby, I'm a piece of scum. Shit you clean under your thumb. Baby, I'm the kind of guy that I make you wanna die. Get out while you still can. Get out while you still can. And I left my only son. And I quit right when she's about to come. And I lied to my grandpa. I even had to put down our dog. Well, if there's one thing that you should hear before you come with me, I'm the kind of guy I'll always make you unhappy. Oh, baby, I'm a piece of scum. The shit you clean under your thumb. Baby, I'm the kind of guy that I make you wanna die. Get out while you still can. Get out while you still can.
Yes.
Wow.
James Hayes.
Wow.
Lovey-doveys. Very nice. A great way to end. I still love that song.
So good. It's so good.
It's a great song. You see what I mean? That's a great description that we started off with, saying the songs about the horrific human
That's your
condition.
callback. I was
Told
right.
in such a, sung in such a witty way and so musical that you can't help but enjoy it.
When's your next New Orleans show?
Okay, yeah, we're playing next Wednesday, October 22nd. I don't know when this comes out in relation to.
Well, slightly
other-
before that.
Okay, great.
We're talking about
Perfect.
2014.
That's good for me. That worked. This works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are talking about 2014 in case
Yeah.
you're listening to this.
We're playing
any
at Gaza
year
Gaza
later.
on Ferret with Little Gold. We're opening up for Little Gold from Athens, Georgia, our friend's band. That's on October 22nd, a Wednesday. And then we play the 504 Rock Art Circus on November 12th. And then we go on tour.
And if we want to
For a
find
long
out
time.
where you are, and there's nothing up on that website, can we go to your
Good luck, deal with
Facebook
it.
page? is the Lovey Dovey's Facebook
Find my
page.
wallet somewhere and
Okay.
then get in touch with
Oh,
the band through.
I see someone found your wallet
I
on
don't
the
know,
floor
someone
here.
else's
Dude,
card
awesome.
that I
Okay. Very good. And Nick Pete has his movie Sweet Candy playing in New Orleans too at the Contemporary Arts Center on Sunday the 19th of October, and then Monday the 20th of October it's at Canal Place.
Correct.
So if you're listening to this in 2014 before those dates, otherwise the name of the movie, you can find it online, is called Sweet Candy with a K.
Correct.
I'm sure you can find that. Darren, do you have anything to tell us about?
Oh yeah, this weekend I'm doing the Crescent City Blues Festival at Lafayette Square downtown
Okay.
New Orleans.
So you'll be your art will be there.
Set up with my artwork this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'll be
Okay.
out there.
Check it out, and you can find links to all these people on our website, itsneworleans.com. Jackie Summel, Darren Butler, James Hayes, and Nick Pete have been my guests today on Happy Hour. Thank you so much for joining me, everybody. Our show is produced by Graham DePonte. Our associate producer and technical director is Chris Kehoe. Christian Unruh is our music director. The theme song to Happy Hour, which you're currently listening to, was written by and is being played by Mitch Foreman. The fabulous audio quality of this show is brought to you in part by PreSonus Audio Electronics. If you'd like to be on our show and you can sit around here for about an hour, drop us a line. Our address is on our website, where you can also check out many other Happy Hour shows. Listen to those or Out to Lunch with Peter Raschuti live at Commander's Palace. Mindset with psychiatrist Dr. Nick Pajak. True to the Game with Chris True. Midnight Menu +1 with Margot Moss and the man who ate New Orleans, Ray Canada. And Louisiana Eats with Poppy Tooker. You can keep up with us on Facebook, on Twitter, and a bunch of other time-sucking social media as well. On all of it, we're called It's New Orleans. You can find photos from this show on itsneworleans.com and on our Facebook page. These photos were taken by the fabulous Douglas Engel. Thank you, Douglas. They're also on our Google Plus page, by the way. If you're listening to this show on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Swell, or some other podcast app that you prefer, thank you for subscribing to us. Please stop everything you're doing right now and take a moment to rate and review us. That does, in fact, help other people find us. Our show is recorded live today at Wayfair on Ferret Street, where they put fine dining into a sandwich and fine booze into a glass. Check them out. Happy Hour is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsneworleans.com. Andrew Duhon may or may not be back here next week. I certainly will. I'm Grant Morris on behalf of Graham DePonte and everyone around the table here at Wayfair and back at the INO office. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you back here next time on Happy Hour.
Johnny got a toy golf set when he was 3, and from that day on, he was hooked. All he wanted to do was golf, golf, golf. He'd be on the links before school, after school. All he ever wanted was to go pro. And then, one day, when he was holding his grandson and thinking about his 12 handicap, Johnny realized it just might not happen for him. But you know what did happen for him? He switched to Geico and saved a bunch of money on car insurance. So that was good, and so was hanging out with his grandson.